If you ever hear a man whisper through your front door, I know you're in there, believe him the first time. For the sake of privacy, call me Andre. This happened in March 2016 on the north side of Birmingham, UK. I was 25 then, living in a semi-detached house with my parents while saving to move out. I'm second-generation British Caribbean. My family's loud and loving and the kind that knows every neighbor on our street by name. I had been dating a girl I'll call Lena for 7 months. She was 20, originally from Guadeloupe, living with her older brother and 2 cousins in a flat off Alum Rock Road. At first, the relationship felt easy. Shared music, shared food, shared French. Then it got controlling. She checked my phone, argued when I played co-op games with a childhood friend who happens to be a woman, and once turned up outside my work because I didn't reply fast enough. I could list a dozen flags I ignored. I ended it after she tried to confront my friend outside a cafe and nearly slapped her. 2 weeks later, I met someone new, Naomi, at my cousin's birthday. Naomi was patient, kind, and the opposite of drama. I didn't hide it. Maybe I should have. The first sign came as voicemails. Lena's brother, Matis, with a husky voice and that low tone of a man building steam. You humiliated my sister. You'll see me soon. A day later. I know that house with the bay window and the red door. You think I can't find you? I blocked numbers. Emails arrived. Then burner numbers. Naomi urged me to inform the police. I said it would pass. It didn't. One Friday, both my parents traveled to Leicester overnight for an aunt's surgery. Naomi stayed with me. We watched a comedy and fell asleep on the sofa. At 1:17 a.m., the letterbox snapped open. Someone peering or breathing through it. Then came the first kick. It wasn't a polite knock. It was a heel-to-wood thud that made the frame shudder. A male voice, breathy, half-whispered rage. Open up, Andre, let's talk. Another kick. The chain rattled. You think you can swap my sister for that one? He meant Naomi, I knew the voice, Mathis. We ran upstairs to my room and locked the door. From the landing window, I saw shadows on the driveway. 3 figures, hoods up, one of them thin and jittery, one broad-shouldered. I dialed 999, my voice cracked. The operator told us to stay upstairs, stay quiet, and keep the line open. Downstairs, the front door finally gave. I heard the frame splinter, the chain snap, and a shoe crunch on shattered wood. Another voice, not Matis, hissed, hurry up. Then something I still think about. Another man, my neighbor, Mr. Khan, shouted from outside. Oi, what the hell are you doing? He must have seen the commotion from his CCTV alert. In an instant, there were more feet, Mr. Khan and his adult son pounding up our walkway. A tangle of voices, a startled yell. Glass clinked. Someone stumbled into our hall cabinet. Heavy steps started up the stairs. Our bedroom door handle turned. I pushed Naomi behind the bed and grabbed the only thing near me, a metal dumbbell. The handle wrenched again, harder, then stopped. Sirens, close, someone on the stairs cursed. Feet retreated. The front door banged once more, this time a scramble out rather than in. Police flooded the hall within seconds. Later, one officer showed us what they'd pulled from a backpack dropped on our tiles. A heavy kitchen knife, duct tape, and a pair of cheap gloves. My stomach lurched. They found Lena outside in a parked car, engine still warm. She denied everything and said she'd come to talk sense into everyone. Matisse and one cousin were arrested in the alley where they tried to run, caught by officers who'd been driving the next street over when our call came in. Timing saved us. Neighbors saved us. The charge that stuck wasn't what you might imagine. Legal language can sometimes feel like it lives on another planet. Possession of an article with a blade or point in a public place, criminal damage, and threats to kill under investigation. The word attempted danced around for a while, but the final paperwork sounded smaller than the terror we lived. In hearings, Lena held her face in her hands like she was the injured party. I didn't attend the last one. I chose to start sleeping again instead. 2 outcomes mattered, a restraining order against Lena and Matis and their removal from the UK months later for immigration breaches unrelated to our incident. Paperwork they'd ignored. People asked if that meant we were safe. You learn fast that safe is a feeling more than a fact. Guadeloupe is French territory. Ferries exist. Planes exist. Loopholes exist. Naomi and I moved within 6 weeks, farther north to a different bus line and a different gym, with a new door reinforced with a better frame and anti-snap locks. Mr. Khan wouldn't let me pay for the emergency carpenter that night. He said, "That's what streets are for, son." He brought over tea and halwa for 3 days after, each time pretending it was extra. I never forget that. Sometimes a footstep on gravel still jolts me. Sometimes a letterbox clack freezes me mid-breath. But here's what I learned. When a stranger threatens, call it in. When a neighbor calls out, it can change everything. And if a whisper at your door says he's coming inside, lock the door, climb the stairs, and call for help. We were lucky that help was already on our street. They say don't make eye contact at red lights. They never tell you what to do when the door handle starts rattling. My name is Maya, I'm 24, and I grew up in Appleton, Wisconsin. This happened last July on a Monday night, during the kind of heat that makes the air taste like metal. My vintage hatchback's air conditioning failed the summer prior, so I kept the windows open. An unwise decision, I admit. But I find that sweating induces car sickness. I was driving from my old neighborhood to the small duplex I'd just rented on the south side. There's a stretch on Hawaii 47, where a 4-lane road crosses a smaller route by a river. On the right, a Quick Ridge gas station throws off a fluorescent glow. On the left, the only features visible are a black ribbon of water and the iron outline of a bridge. I know every crack in that asphalt. I'd driven it 100 times. Familiarity is a liar. I rolled up to the red light in the far right lane, music up, elbow on the door. An acid green Camaro slid into the lane to my left, loud pipes, darker tint. I wouldn't have looked if not for the sound. 3 men laughing too loud, the way people do to draw attention. The passenger leaned out his window, grinning like we were in on a joke. The grin didn't reach his eyes. Initially, it was just generic noise. Hey, hey. The kind of thing guys throw out like bait. Then came the whistle. That 2-note you hear in parking lots and movies. I stared straight ahead, waiting for the ancient sensor in the road to remember we existed. The music didn't cover them. Smile, sweetheart. Come on, we're friendly. Quick Ridge, 2 minutes. We'll buy you a drink. I rolled my window up halfway, then all the way. I secured my doors. The passenger's smile dropped. I heard a car door pop. In my side mirror, I watched him step out. Baseball cap backward, black t-shirt. He cut behind his car and came up along my passenger side. He yanked my back door handle first, then the front, fast, like maybe repetition would change physics. When that didn't work, he slapped my window so hard the glass quivered. With every smack, my body jumped. I thought about fleeing straight through the red, but the bridge to my left felt like a trap. No shoulder, just railing and dark water. The gas station to the right meant passing the men. Behind me, empty lanes, a darkness that felt too wide. I froze the way small animals do. He tried the handle again. Harder. Then he leaned close, his breath steaming a small circle on my glass, and he spit. It slid in trailing strings. The light was still red. The world was still pretending traffic rules mattered. The next motion saved me because it broke the spell. He lifted his elbow like he was about to drive it into my window. I slammed the gas. The engine whined. Tires squealed, and I shot through the red so fast my eyes watered. I didn't care if a camera flashed. I didn't look left or right. I only looked at the road ahead and then, stupidly, at my rearview mirror. All 3 of them were out of the Camaro now, standing in the lane, watching me go. The driver held something small in his hand, a gray shape I would rather not identify. My stomach flipped so hard I thought I'd be sick. I drove like a video game for the next 2 miles. Then remembered to breathe and pulled into a lit strip mall, parking crooked and shaking. I called my older brother. He answered on the second ring and stayed on the line while I checked my back seat and then the sky, and then my mirrors again. He asked me for a plate number. I didn't have it. Guilt hit like a second wave. He told me better safe than sorry, better moving than memorizing. I made it home. The porch light had never looked brighter. I used to think locking a bedroom door was childish. That night it was air. I didn't sleep much, waking at every car that rattled past. The next morning I drove a different way to work, taking side streets that added 10 minutes but felt like a moat. I still use that route now. The gas station at that corner is the same, and the river is the same, and the bridge still traps the wind in a way that whistles. However, I no longer cease my activities at night. and my windows remain open even when perspiration beads on my skin. People tell stories about men in cars as if they're cautionary tales for other people. It took a green Camaro and a long red light to teach me those stories are better as maps. Routes you draw so you know where not to pause. If you notice the same van twice on a 900-mile drive, change lanes. If you notice it 3 times, change plans. I'm Ethan, 27. I lived in San Jose, California for a year while working a contract job, loved the burritos and hated the rent. After my project ended, I packed everything into my hatchback and decided to make the long drive back to Shreveport, Louisiana, but slower, friends in Oceanside, a beach day in San Diego, and photos of sunset the way tourists do. It felt good to take my time. That's the trap of road trips. Time feels like it's yours until someone else decides to share it. At a rest area outside Yuma, Arizona, I refilled my water and used a bathroom that smelled like bleach pretending to be lemon. In the far lot sat a white panel van with crooked stripes of red and blue paint along its sides. Not a job, more like a mess someone tried to hide. A man in the driver's seat flicked a cigarette out the window, watched it arc, then looked up and smiled at me. The smile was too wide, the kind that wants something. I nodded out of politeness and moved on. By the time I reached Tucson that night, the day felt like melted plastic. I checked into a budget hotel near the freeway, thin walls, thicker curtains, and walked back outside to grab a duffel. The van was there. Same slouch over the back wheels, same dirty streaks. I stared longer this time, tracing the paint lines like a signature. The driver wasn't inside. I told myself it was a coincidence. I tell myself a lot of things. The next morning, the van was gone. I let my shoulders drop, drove east, and decided to stop in Albuquerque. A downtown festival filled the sidewalks with buskers and fry bread and teenagers in hand-painted denim. It was loud and bright and the kind of scene that makes you forget the word alone. In a gap between booths, I noticed a figure leaning against a tree, smoke curling up like ribbon. He wore a gray cap and a blue work shirt, and when I turned his way, he looked down, not away, not at his phone, but down like he'd been seen. It was the same man from the rest area. The certainty didn't arrive as proof. It arrived as nausea. I headed to my car. My hands shook so badly I dropped the fob on the asphalt. I phoned my parents once I hit the highway. My dad, practical to a fault, said the logic out loud. Many people take I-10 and many vans look alike. My mom didn't argue, just said, "Keep your phone charged. And don't sleep in the car tonight." Night fell like a curtain. I had 5 hours to get to my brother's place in Dallas if I powered through. I didn't have 5 hours left in my eyes. I pulled off at a rural rest area in West Texas. 2 vending machines, 1 flickering light. The kind of place where the stars look closer than people. I must have fallen asleep with my head on the steering wheel, because the sound that woke me was a knock that didn't sound like knuckles. It sounded like metal. I jerked upright. In my side window was a face I already knew. Gray cap, blue shirt, calm eyes like he had all night. He curled his fingers in a roll-down motion. I shook my head, mouthed no, and reached for the ignition. His smile vanished as if it had been rented. He yanked my door handle hard enough to rock the car, then hissed something I can still hear. "Open the door." I started the engine. The light from the dash turned his face corpse green. He pulled something from his pocket, small but heavy in the hand, not a phone. My lungs went on fire. I slammed the gear stick into reverse, tires spitting gravel, and backed out so fast I almost clipped a concrete bollard. He ran after me with his hand up, shouting. I didn't look to see if the van was there. I didn't need the image for memory to keep. On the highway again, I called my parents, this time with the kind of voice no one dismisses. They told me to get to the nearest well-lit hotel in a big town and call the police, then come to Dallas in daylight. I did both. The officer who took my report the next morning wrote it all down. The mile marker for the rest area. Description of the van, white older model, red and blue slashes that look like paint spills. And description of the man, mid-40s, lean, smoker, gray cap. He was sympathetic but honest, no cameras, no plate, miles of road. They'd pass it to highway patrol. I made it to my brother's house by noon and slept for 10 hours with his porch lights blazing and his 2 hunting dogs parked like furniture by the guest room door. I stayed a week and then drove the last leg to Louisiana in full daylight with too much coffee in a car that felt too small. No one followed. Or maybe they did and I never saw them. That's the thing about fear. After a while you stop needing evidence. I don't take solo road trips anymore. I miss the maps and the podcasts and the weird little towns with one diner and a wall of photos. Sometimes I miss the sunset over the desert enough to Google it. Then I remember the knock on glass and the way a stranger's face looks too calm when yours is melting. If you notice the same van twice, change lanes. If you notice it 3 times, change your life for a few days. It's cheaper than the alternative. I learned 2 kinds of silence working the graveyard shift. The one that means peace and the one that means someone is holding their breath on the other side of the shelf. I'm Leah, and for a year I worked the 10 p.m. 6 a.m. shift at a 24-hour convenience store in Phoenix called Night Owl Market. It is a type of establishment that offers a wide range of products: fuel, coffee, lottery tickets, and tires for shopping carts abandoned in the parking lot. Most nights are equal parts boredom and small talk with people who look more tired than dangerous. I liked the predictability until I learned predictability as a surface. On a Wednesday in late October, the store was slow. The soda fountain made that throaty hum it does when it's refilling syrup, and an infomercial about a steam mop played over the mounted TV by the door. My manager, Rick, had gone to the back office to reconcile a cash drop, leaving me at the counter with a book I never finished reading. Around 2:40 a.m., a man came in wearing a faded baseball cap and a brown jacket a size too big. He moved like he'd practiced moving, slow but not hesitant. He didn't look at the security dome on the ceiling, which already made me watch him. People glance at cameras. He drifted to aisle 3, the one with razors and batteries and those tiny travel shampoos. I did the hello nod. He didn't nod back. A minute became 3. The feeling in my ribs, the one I call my extra sense, switched on. "Rick," I said into the store mic, keeping my voice flat. "Do you need any help counting?" He clicked back through the tiny speaker. "All good." The door to the office stayed shut. Another customer pulled in, a nurse in sea green scrubs who always bought a blueberry muffin and a black coffee. She gave the man a quick glance and then looked at me longer, conveying the message, "Are you good?" I smiled like I wasn't measuring the distance to the panic button under the counter. The nurse paid and left. We went back to silence. The man reappeared at the counter with 2 alkaline battery packs and asked for rolling papers. His voice was dry, the way paper sounds before it catches. As I turned to get the papers from behind the register, he leaned in too far over the counter. I felt the air pull toward him. When I set the papers down, he didn't move. He stared at them like he was trying to decide if they were worth what came next. Then, in a soft voice like he was borrowing someone else's, he said, "I forgot my wallet in the car. Mind if I leave these here?" "Sure," I said, and slid the items to one side. He walked toward the door. He didn't go out. He turned right at the last second, slipping into aisle 1, the one that runs directly beside the front windows, boxed in by a shelf that blocks my view from behind the counter. The door chirped anyway from the motion sensor, and for a second I thought he'd gone. Something about the outline of the shelf felt wrong, like a shadow where there shouldn't be one. I stepped out from behind the counter. The long mirror at the end of the aisle showed only rows of chips and a bright rectangle of glass reflecting the pumps. The aisle itself looked empty. That's when the microwave behind me beeped. I hadn't set it, it beeped again. On my left, the man stepped out from the blind spot near the ATM fast like he'd been counting my steps. He didn't reach for the register. He reached for me, aiming past my shoulder toward the gap where the swing gate lets you behind the counter. I pivoted back and slammed the gate down with my hip, then stomped the under-counter panic pedal so hard my ankle popped. A silent alarm doesn't sound for you. It sounds somewhere else. That makes the next 3 minutes feel like an hour. He stopped, measured the gate with his eyes, then looked at my hands. One on the till, one on nothing. He smiled like he knew things. No one's coming, he said, almost kindly. I think they are, I said, and I made my voice bored because fear makes some men greedy. He moved his jacket. The glint under his collar wasn't metal. It was skin, a thin line of a tattoo that looked prison done. He told me to open the cigarette cabinet. I opened it slowly, my other foot steady over the pedal like it could call twice if it needed to. He took his time choosing like this was shopping. Then something small saved me. Headlights swung bright against the window glass and a car door thunked hard. The man's eyes flicked toward the door. He didn't run. He just melted backward, slipping down aisle 2 the way a shadow does when the light moves. 2 people walked in laughing, the night security guards from the strip mall next door. Off shift and craving hot dogs we both knew were a bad idea. Leah, you still got those mustard packets? One called, and then he saw my face. The smile went somewhere else. The guards split without talking about it. One stayed with me and one drifted down aisle 2 with a casual gait that would have fooled anyone who didn't know how he walked when he was serious. The brown jacket vanished. The back door alarm didn't sound. The man hadn't used it. He was still inside. The police arrived in under 4 minutes, which is both fast and forever if you're holding your breath. Rick finally came out of the office, stunned, a problem for later. Officers moved through the aisles like chess pieces. 2 to the back room, 1 to the bathroom corridor, and 1 to the freezer door that sticks if you don't hip check it. They found the man crouched in the narrow space between the stacked soda crates and the emergency exit, shoulder pressed to cold metal, teeth bared like an animal cornered. He didn't have a gun. He had a box cutter and a roll of electrical tape in his jacket. The officer's voice stayed gentle, the way you speak to keep a decision from becoming a headline. He went quietly after one stupid sentence. I just needed a ride. When the store went bright and empty again, I stood in front of the open cigarette cabinet and counted packs I hadn't sold. The microwave still blinked Z0-0, ready to beep again if someone told it to. The security guard stayed for an hour, making bad coffee and worse jokes until the shakes left my hands. Rick filed what he had to file. I finished that shift. I finished the week. Then I gave my notice. People say night shifts make you hard. The truth is, they make you specific. You learn the weight of a footstep, which silence means peace, and which one means someone is holding their breath just long enough to decide if your fear belongs to them. I still go to Night Owl sometimes during the day for a muffin. It tastes different now. Or maybe I do.